So this whole Black Myth Wukong thing is just so funny. I think a lot of these folk have hit a wall, these so-called hyper PlayStation fanboys. And I said this before, their behavior is akin to people who have not been scrutinized in their thinking and their ideas have just been allowed to fly without anyone actually checking if they truly know what they're talking about. They came into the conversation touting, spouting, disparaging hardware like Series S while overhyping hardware like the PS5 Pro, and on further research and even testing out things, realized that for the most part, they are very well unaware about how hardware works in terms of game development and software. Even I myself, who has worked on some game development, messed around with Unreal Engine extensively, like 4 years, build multiple gaming PCs, I still have to admit in the places where I don't know what I don't know. But these folk can never, ever admit that they have no idea what the heck they're talking about. The Turk, I think, may have inadvertently baited some of them into really exposing themselves. This is really bad for them. I've tried my best to make these videos without actually calling anybody's names. And I don't need to call anybody's names because a lot of these people really don't care what the reality and the truth is. Their goal is to continue to run around. But when you stay focused on what the idea is, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. The reality and the truth is going to pretty much unveil itself. The Turk started out with the Black Myth Wukong test, basically calculating the amount of RAM and VRAM that's being used overall to run the game. He's basically come to the conclusion that after Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, it was about 7 gigs of RAM. So that's pretty much what all is going on. Pretty much based on clips and a lot of the evidence that he's been showing. I thought this was very interesting. So we talked about it briefly, and I said, for the most part, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 seems to be showing us that this game can run with very limited RAM. Apparently, he decided that he was going to go and take the test to the more extreme outcome, because a lot of these folk like Nib were talking about the worst case scenarios, moving the goalpost, and some of them starting to cite things like unified memory or allocated memory and some other nonsense that they basically pulled out of thin air. I thought it was very funny, so he decided he was going to go with a more extreme test. And before he went to that extreme test, he basically went ahead and cited his hypothesis, cited his experiment, talked about the different variables. If you know the scientific method, I don't have to explain this stuff to you. He said, okay, my final experiment is underway. Will Black Myth Wukong run on my Windows PC with 4 gigs of RAM and 6 gigs of VRAM? So putting his, independent and dependent variables into the whole system and drawing his hypothesis, which is, I don't expect it to work because Windows sucks. But here goes. Even when he actually posited this before he posted, someone even said, this is pushing it, man, but it's insane if it actually does. So a worst case scenario where you basically hamper Windows, a worst case scenario where you hamper the hardware and try to figure out what is going on in terms of the performance. This is the unoptimized Black Myth Wukong, by the way, the one that, I won't say unoptimized, the one that is basically not necessarily the best case scenario in terms of the way it runs on PC. Even on PlayStation 5, people have actually noted that the game doesn't run well on that platform itself. I remember watching a streamer who had basically enjoyed the game, but said for them to try to play the game, continually was a problem because his PS5 was just not running it well when they got to advanced parts of the, progression. So when he went ahead and did that, he shows the game and the game is running on way well hampered hardware. That is actually less than what the Series S would actually do in that scenario. I think some people took the bait thinking that when you use only total 10 gigs of, VRAM, the game's performance is what you're going to get in this scenario, not paying attention that this is also a likelihood in that regard. And so many of them started to jump and pile on, not paying attention to what exactly had been done in this experiment. I think at the end of the day, this really exposes what I think is a sickness in the gaming conversation. A lot of these PlayStation fans, ladies and gentlemen, these ones that are talking on the internet to just have, the keyboard warriors, they have no idea. They have no idea what they're talking about for the most part. I mean, some of them truly believe that they know what they're talking about. I'm not saying they don't believe what they're saying. They do believe, but man, they are absolutely internally deceived, or They're willfully deceitful to the people that they speak with and the people that actually listen to them or follow them. It's just like that. Some of them are toxic by nature. Like, you can see the way they behave. You can see the things that they say, right? Like, you see them on the internet. I block a lot of them. I don't care I'm not concerned, but these days, you can still block somebody and you can still see their posts. You'll be like, oh, you've blocked this user. Who? I wonder who that is. You click it and it's like, oh crap, no wonder I blocked them. And for the most part, they're not interested in the truth. They're interested in some agenda to tell you that PlayStation is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But they stepped into the wrong arena, though. They came in with PC players. PC players are some of the most meticulous, some of the most asinine. Sometimes we can be over the top in many cases. Why? But I mean, this is the way we treat companies anyways, So for a PlayStation fanboy, it's not work. AMD, Nvidia, Intel, all these companies, they hear from, PC gamers that their market share is under constant scrutiny because PC gamers are constantly asking questions and benchmarking and verifying everything they say. So for a PlayStation fanboy to come out and make, these claims, and then the PC gamer to come out and say, hey man, we can test it out, and then they go ahead and start spouting nonsense, oh, it's over. I saw somebody today on Twitter trying to tell the Turk to calm down and, move on and all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't think that's how it works. You don't move on until you've reached good conclusions. And right now the conclusions is that, this whole talk about Black Myth Wukong and the Series S, the fissures are starting to show. The developers need to possibly come up with, maybe a different approach, maybe a different reason. Because also, the game has sold about 20 million copies. If optimization is their problem, they already have the resources to go ahead and optimize. So what's stopping them? What's stopping them? I speculate, and I put a hypothesis that PlayStation has a deal with them with an NDA attached to it, where they cannot say anything about the existence of such a deal or whatever must have exchanged hands. And somewhere around the 6-month mark to the 1-year mark, you're going to hear about this game coming on Xbox. I'm speculating based on the fact that Xbox has said that they are not aware of any technical difficulties of the Series S with this game. They've said it already. That they're not aware of any technical difficulties with the game. So to talk about the Series S, even from the developer at this moment in time, I don't believe him anymore. Why? His game has sold 20 million units and more over the top. So for him to be saying requires years of experience is like, you can literally hire anybody that is an expert in technical art, technical development from any studio right now and pay him what they ask, and basically pay their convenience, and they will get your game optimized for you. There are people in the industry who this is their entire job. Their job is to go in and make fixes. Or I'm not even doubting that you guys can even make the fixes that you need in the game. I mean, yes, a small team makes a game of this caliber, big deal. I'm not minimizing it. I like developers. But if the developers don't come out and say there is no deal in place that's making the game exclusive, like the way the Baldur's Gate 3 developers did with Larian, then I will speculate freely that there is a PlayStation deal. And there's nothing you will do about it. Why? Because when there was no PlayStation deal with a game that had challenges with Series S and the developer in their pipeline, the developers came out and literally said it's not a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Do you all remember MBG got corrected by the Baldur's Gate or Larian, the dude from Larian, at Cormwelp. So the developers can't say that outrightly, and we're seeing their game running on hampered PS5 simulation hardware, by the way, like they're literally hampering this stuff. Then I'm free to speculate that perhaps they have a deal in place with PlayStation. And if Xbox has said that there's no hardware limitations that have been made known to them, I feel like I have enough basis to be able to make that speculation freely. And with their silence on the matter, and with the fact that they have enough, resources now, in my mind anyways, I don't know if who knows? I don't know what their agreements were with investors, but I'm sure the game has made a lot of people quite wealthy. So to me, this is really strange. But I have what I think is enough now to speculate. I'll talk more about the Turk stuff, but I want him to go ahead and make his own video and talk about the journey. But I have everything that I think I need. I think my decision right now is now sound. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not saying that this is conclusively. That's why I said I speculate. But I'm speculating with what I think is enough, basis and enough grounds to go ahead and pretty much make this kind of a conclusion. Well, speculation. I won't call it a conclusion. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. What do you think? Thanks for watching. Peace out.